Hi everybody, welcome back. This is XL Leaders 10 minutes live with leaders from different aspects of society, technology, business. Key part of leadership is driving business, sales. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the importance of sales and organizing your sales cycle, especially in the B2B space. I'm joined to discuss this critical area by Dan King, who is in the rather enviable position of being able to look out across the Atlantic Ocean today on a beautiful blue sky morning. Dan, welcome to the studio.
Well, thank you, Graham. Delighted to be with you.
So, Dan, a little bit about yourself before we get going. We're going to talk about B2B and sales. You didn't qualify as a sales guy. You are, according to my sources, qualified in very different profession, law of all
Hmm.
things, a rather colourful background as well. So there's a bit of an interesting diversion, even though you may say actually these might be the same through and through. We're going to go into that space in a minute, but we've only got 10 minutes today. So are you ready to get started, Dan?
Exceptionally ready.
Let's do this then. All right, 10 minutes on the clock with Dan King from Fireside Strategic. Let's go. Dan, question number one. What does it say on your business card?
So I've never had a business card when I run my own companies.
Okay, I like this starting. Why?
I'm a big believer in human connection, and I find that there's something about the business card that takes our attention away from the human being we're meeting.
Hmm. Yeah, we tend to fall back on a business card, don't we? And that becomes a default in these networking events. Nobody actually makes the effort to get to know that person first. All right, okay, let's imagine you had a business card. What would it say on it?
I think it would probably say lover of human connection and growing businesses.
Hmm. Are they, is it an and? Are they, do you have to love human connection to grow businesses? Are these separate things? How do they fit together?
I, I don't think it's required. I've met plenty of people who have a different approach to growing businesses than I do. Let's call it more of a
Hmm.
transactional approach. And I
Hmm.
met a very wise man recently who said, Dan, there's two basic ways to grow a services business or a B2B business. And he said, there's some people that are very transactional, they're very volume based, they run up the numbers. But then there's other people like you. You're a craftsman, you're a high touch. You want to work with a smaller number and be clients and be very selective about who they are. So with
Hmm.
the way I do it, yes, but not necessarily.
All right, let's talk about craft then. Let's talk about the masterpiece that you're making. What is your superpower, Dan? What are you good at, better at than most people that you can be confident of sharing today?
Yeah. So when I started professional life as a corporate lawyer, I was in a very large law firm, and everyone around me was doing research. They went to the law library and they grabbed books and they were doing all this research, and that bored the living hell out of me. And I realized I'm not going to be able to compete with people in this domain. So, contrary to the orders of my superiors, I went out and just grabbed business. I just started meeting people. I had no training. I was like 24, fresh out of law school, no notion of what I was doing. But I just had this instinct that I wanted to meet people and I wanted to grow the business. Some
Hmm.
lawyers loved it, some didn't. But the superpower in there is that I've always had this ability to attract powerful people. Even as a 24-year-old with very little power myself, I think I have this ability to naturally, warmly, authentically connect with virtually anyone, but especially powerful people. I can level with them. I've
Hmm.
always been socially mobile that way. I can, even if they're powerful, I can find a way to connect.
Where does that come from? Your background when you were 24 doing it as a corporate lawyer, you had commercial reasons to doing, but let's go back 10 years.
Yeah,
14-year-old Dan King. Did you still have it? Was it something you were born with? Did it come to you at some later stage?
it's a good question. I was pretty shy as a 14-year-old. I
I
was
don't
pretty
believe it.
shy. No, I was. I'd call myself a pretty solid extrovert now, but I was shy when I was 14. And so I don't think I had it then. Something must have happened between 14 and 24.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay. Maybe that's to be discovered later in life. Looking back, reflecting and joining the dots, Steve Jobs style. I'm
That's
always
it.
very curious about where that drive comes, where the entrepreneurial energy comes from. But let's leave some mystery for today, shall we? Okay, so
Let's.
one of the things that you are good at is connecting with people. Tell me about that in the context of sales and B2B
Yeah.
as well. How does that fall together? Where does connection
Yeah.
play a role here?
Yeah. With pleasure. So, one of the biggest challenges in the B2B world is the length of the sales cycle.
Hmm.
If you sell to an individual on the internet, you can do that pretty quickly if you've got good marketing. But if you want to sell to a bigger company, there's multiple decision makers and there's a whole hierarchy of people to go through. It can take a long time to get to the person who's the ultimate decision maker, who can really say, yes, I'm going to write the check. So what we have found is that there's a number of ways to shorten that sales cycle, all human connection oriented. And one of the ways that we're most proud of is using a tool like you and I are using today, Graham, the video cast or the podcast. What we have found is that even very, very senior CEOs, business owners, high net worth investors, very top level people, they love coming on podcasts and video casts. And I think it's because we're all storytelling creatures. We all have a
Hmm.
story to tell, whether we're a janitor, a CEO, or anyone else. And the reality is, we very rarely get a chance to tell it. And so, what we have found is we can massively shorten the sales cycle by thinking about a podcast less as a way to build an audience. And yes, we do that, but that's a long-term play. For us, we've re-engineered the podcast and the video cast to be about connection and real relationship building with ideal clients, referral partners, etc. That's how we do it.
Yeah, I love this. This is so on the money with my thinking. And I verify it from my own experience that the meetings you can get through a podcast with people, it's incomparable to what it would take if you were knocking on doors, pitching. And I wonder why not more people are doing this. And sometimes I have to think, well, actually, maybe we don't want to tell a lot of people about this because if they were all doing it, it would become the new normal of what sales is, right? But that ability to get somebody, I mean, I've sat with the CEO of AirAsia as an example and done business with him, a billionaire. I've sat with the billionaire founder of Zero, the SaaS accountancy software platform. And I never would have had time with them if I was just selling my stuff. There's something magical, isn't it? How did you discover that? Was it by accident or did you have an insight? Where did that come from your own experience?
You want to hear a crazy story, Graham?
Oh, yeah, you're in the right place, Dan.
I actually had a dream.
Mm.
It's funny. One day I woke up with a dream about using videocast to connect with very high level people. And, there's a number of things beyond videocast we do. But a lot of this came to me in a dream. I just woke up with it and I felt this deep chill, this deep intuitive sense that, ooh, there's something interesting here. So I just went and did it.
Right. That's an interesting insight. It must have been bubbling under for a few years, though. You maybe seen something subliminally, picked it up, listened to something, and then your antenna are out reading this stuff, and then it just
Yeah.
kind of happened in an insight.
There's some very smart people who do some similar but slightly different things. There's a brilliant man named Steve Gordon who I credit, where some of this thinking came from, there's a couple of
Hmm.
people out there, but a lot of dots were connected in a dream.
Hmm. I'm fascinated. How does that compare then? Let's do the traditional approach, B2B. Maybe
Hmm.
I send a lead magnet. Maybe I'll get a meeting. Maybe I'll find the marketing manager, work my way up to the CMO. We're talking months, sometimes years in a sales cycle chasing somebody. What have you found by shortcutting that? What are the kind of results
Yeah.
can you get?
Yeah. So what we've found, traditionally, especially in tech sales these days, companies will hire an army of junior reps to try to get in the door. They're often
Mm,
called BDRs, business development representatives, or SDRs, sales development representatives. They'll have an army. And especially at the beginning, when they don't know which language to use, it can take them absolutely years to even get the meeting, let alone close
mm,
the deal. So what we have found is videocast podcast, beautiful way to replace, in some cases, the army of BDRs that you're spending a fortune on. And then after that, there's a variety of ways that we deepen relationships with leaders. Sometimes, if you've done a really good job with your marketing prior to the conversation, if they know who you are and they know what you do, and you've got an ideal client in front of you, they will ask you to sell to them. We've had this happen a number of times. But if you frame your interview both so as to give them value from like an emotional perspective, if you really make them feel connected to you, and you ask questions like any good salesperson to help uncover their challenges, right? In the interview, you can start to make them see, ooh, wait a second, I have this problem that maybe I should prioritize a little more than I have been. One other little quick tip for the audience, Graham, if they ever want to try this, is often what we'll do, we have a sense someone could be a client, but we want to deepen the relationship before thinking about going in for a sale. We will invite them to a mastermind. So we often invite our clients, we'll invite 4 CEOs to a Zoom room, one-time mastermind, very simple. What we're doing is creating a space for them to talk about their challenges. And the key to ethical, high integrity sales is really helping someone solve a significant problem. If we get them in a space where they meet 3 other CEOs, we're doing a lot of their networking for them, right? And in that space, they feel comfortable talking about their challenges. It's then a simple matter of us writing an email a week later saying, hey, you talked about X challenge in the mastermind. We love to help with that sort of thing. Would you be open to a conversation about working together on it? Simple.
If we were to fast forward 5 years, 10 years, Dan, into the future, and people are learning about what you're doing, learning about this and thinking, this is pretty good stuff, I'm going to use this. Are we going to see this as the norm for B2B sales? Because let's think about it now. Like you talk about those armies of SDRs, the foot soldiers going in and brute force banging on the moat wall, the doors of the organization. That's one way. Or the expos, the events, the booths, the trade stands. You know, obviously events are a bit of a historical thing now with where we are in the world. 10 years on, is what you're talking about going to be the default and therefore what everybody's going to be doing in B2B?
It's a very good question, and I can't pretend I know the answer, but I always want to be honest and sort of upfront with people about anything I sell. And one of the ways in which I'll do that here is that this model isn't a fit for everyone. Just like trade shows aren't a fit for anyone, no business model or approach to customer acquisition is a fit for everyone. And so what we've found is this model is a fit if you have someone that loves to interview people. Like I've been a podcast and interview and journalism junkie forever. So it's very natural for me, but it isn't going to be as natural for everyone. I meet people who intellectually love what we're doing, but I can just see, do I see them, or having met their head of sales, do I see that head of sales doing this? No, right? So I think you have to be very honest and realize that there's no model that's a fit for everyone. And I suspect in B2B sales, if I had to guess, Graham, I think that there's going to be space for a variety of different strategies. And you have to be really self-aware enough as a company to understand what's going to be the best fit for you.
Yeah, agreed. I like that. And, you know, also in terms of the audience as well that you're reaching, not all of them want to or have something to say on a podcast. The CEOs are perfect avatars, aren't they? They're perfect ideal customer profile because they can speak quite freely for themselves. But if your buyer is at a different level, it's a bit of a difficult proposition, isn't it? If you're targeting a comms leader, for example, who might be a buyer, they don't typically go on podcasts, but CEOs love it. You know, you give them a platform, they're there. You know, they love storytelling. They love those platforms. They just need to be pointed in the right direction and asked the questions.
You know, I think it's really, when you think about this model, you've got to understand you should be selling something expensive. This is a fit for you if you're selling something very high end, probably $10,000 and up. It's a fit for you if you're high touch, because it takes a little bit of time. You got to spend time with a CEO and build a relationship. So to me, this is for a high touch, human connection oriented, very high price point B2B offer.
There you go. Dan King, everybody. Dan, finishing up, where do we find out more about you?
Thumbs up, putting the thumbs up on StreamYard. So you can find out about, the company is Fireside Strategic at firesidestrategic.com. And if you want to explore this particular model that we talked about, we call it Straight to the C-Suite. And you can go to firesidestrategic.com/STTCS. Again, firesidestrategic.com/CTTCS.
There you go. Go and check it out, folks. Go and check out Dan and the team's work at Fireside Strategic. Dan, very insightful. Thank you for coming and sharing a little bit about your insight into the world of change and where we're heading in B2B sales. Thanks for joining us today.
It's an absolute pleasure.